Here we go. Day 3 of these Tottenham on Tour specials, just discussing the shit show of a football club and the man that has led it to this. Now, as you know, I'm having a different guest every single day doing this. And, well, today you got a brother of mine that I've known for over 30 years. And one of the most vocal, like myself, people you could find. It is the one and only my brother, Stelios. How are we doing still, brother?
Stelios. Ooh, darlings. Do you know what? I'm singing that, guys, because that's how Brian normally introduces himself when we're on the phone.
Yep.
He sings a
Correct.
Bob Marley remix of my name. Yeah, listen, Brian, I'm as good as you can be as a Spurs fan. I checked out ages ago. I've stopped going to games, boycotting matches. I've been to one game in 10 because I wanted to see what the coach of Brighton, how he sets them up. That's more of an educational for me because I coach. But yeah, look, Tottenham can't consume your life, man. But it's hard when you're seeing your arch rivals in a title race. Thank God they bottled it. When you're seeing teams that we were above for a few years now, having clawed their way back above us, and you're now seeing the likes of Brighton, Aston Villa, Brentford, really disrupting our status in that top 6, in Newcastle for sure. Yep. So how can you just ignore it, right?
Well, that's it. Well, we've got a lot to get into, Stel. So you ready?
I'm ready, mate. I'm ready.
Tottenham on Tour.
All right, now there's no one better to start this subject with, and this is why I'm very, very happy I have my connection and the man of the moment when it comes to talking about this subject, because I'm trying to go through all the other subjects of where this club has been let down, lied, neglected, and who better to talk to than Stel when it comes to the lack of youth products coming through. So Stel, we're going to go into, you're going to lead here because obviously you're coaching, you're everything now. I remember getting told by the supreme leader, by the man himself, that one of the key aspects of the self-sustaining Tottenham model was bringing quality youth products through the academy, through heavily investing in a youth academy to bring through a plethora, I use a posh word there, a plethora of Spurs talent. Well, that's worked out, hasn't it, still? I mean, Harry Kane, Ollie Skip, Harry Winks. Still, why? And tell us a bit about what it's like for the Youth Academy and the bullshit that's come out over 20-odd years with Levy.
I mean, where do you want me to start? I mean, if we're going to keep it basic, we built a state-of-the-art game-changing stadium that has regressed the football team. And we built a state-of-the-art academy and first-team training facility that's produced one player. And Harry Kane was actually developed when we were at the old site in Chigwell. So, you know,
good point.
If we're going to keep it basic, you could just end the conversation there. If we want to get into a deeper conversation, then for people that don't know, I'm a qualified coach. I've got my badges, been coaching for 10, 11 years. I've built up a network of scouts, recruitment officers, coaches within a lot of the Premier League clubs, Tottenham being one of them, and then Championship Division 1 as well. Clubs in those divisions. And I've been lucky enough to see how they coach. I've been abroad, Holland, Spain, Deportivo La Coruña, Ajax. I've seen how they coach. And within the coaching circles, you learn off other coaches, managers better than you, far better than me. And there is no doubt that it's not the academy that's failing. I think that's a big misconception of a lot of fans. It's not the academy that's failing. It's the structure beyond the academy that is failing the academy. And what I mean by that is the three most important things when developing a young footballer, Brian, is, or even an adult who's young, like a 22, 23-year-old, to progress them, you need the right environment, you need to get to know the player, and patience. If you look at Tottenham right now, this is the wrong environment. It's very toxic. Players are coming off social media after one game because it's just unbearable, the abuse. Pape Sarr starts at Newcastle, gets pulled off after 20 minutes. He basically was taking the brunt of that result, you know. So the environment is wrong. There's no patience. I've just explained how players are coming off social media. The pressure for a manager to get top four, to win silverware, is so high now that one bad result, like a Sheffield United winning the FA Cup, that's it. We're in meltdown. So the fans have lost the patience, but rightly so. It's been 23 years for this ownership to get this right, and they haven't. And then getting to know the player, that takes time. A manager can't really get to know his players and build that deep connection in 12 months, 18 months. Needs a couple of years. Most managers are gone after 12 to 18 months. So environment, toxic, patience, time's up. Getting to know the player. The managers aren't given enough time to have that opportunity to get to know all their players the way they need to truly progress it. You might argue, but look at De Zerbi. He hasn't been at Brighton long. You're right, but the environment's good. There's patience. So he's got two of the three variables. At Tottenham, we don't have any of those variables. So the academy is paying the price, because you can't take a young player, put them into an environment that is toxic, there's no patience, and there's not enough time for the manager to get to know his players, and then expect that young player to flourish. If I was a young player right now, I would not sign a new contract to stay at Spurs. You can't blame him. We're not a club that is set up to then take what the academy has done and then build on it. When we had Poch, we didn't have this big expectation of Champions League finals, Premier League title races, being in the top four every year. We had a little taste of it with Harry Redknapp. But Pochettino, he elevated things. And that was the time to slowly bed in some young players, or develop existing young players, because we had patience. The environment was good. There was a really good vibe at the club. And Poch was there for 4 or 5 years. He had plenty of time to get to know the players. The three variables I mentioned. Now, whoever comes in, Conte, Jose, Nuno, it's like you got like 2 minutes to get this right. If you don't get this right in 2 minutes, we're going toxic. We're going into meltdown. We're going to destroy you on social media. We couldn't care less what you do in your private life. I don't want to see you on Instagram on a treadmill or on a bike saying, working hard, really gonna do well next game and all this. We're gonna fix this. Fans are fed up of it. So the academy isn't failing, Brian. It's the structure above them, which is set from above. You know, Daniel Levy picks the directors of football, the managers, hires them, fires them. He's involved in the transfers. That structure is hurting our academy at the moment. That's what I see when I go into the academy. It's what I see when I speak to people in the academy, and it's direct instructions from above that the academy and the first team cannot interfere with one another. And the reason they've got that rule at Tottenham, if you disagree with me, you can speak to Nick Collison, Phil P, Iggy, because I took them into the academy a couple of months ago, and they got to meet and see what goes on. Got to meet a few people in there and see what goes on. The reason the academy and the first team are not allowed to interfere with one another is because the club, on average, goes through one manager every 18 months. Therefore, they can't have the manager interfering with the academy, because the club is already expecting that manager to not be there in 12 to 18 months. It's insane. And that is exactly how it's structured at the moment.
Well, this is the thing. You talk about patience, and then I'm going to bring another thing in about the youth that I heard on a space. It's really, really hit home with me. But you talk about patience. during this 22 years of nothing, how many managers have signed a second contract at Tottenham Hotspur? Do you know the answer to that question? Oh, if you don't, have a guess. How many managers?
I think one Poch signed an extension.
There you go. In 22 years,
yeah.
only one manager has signed a contract extension. One. Eric Dyer, I think, is about to go on to his fourth contract, but we've only had one manager sign a second contract. And the other thing I was getting is on a Twitter space. I can't remember who it was that said it, but do you know what they were saying as well? It's the bad ethics of Tottenham Hotspur, and these parents, like the people you coach and everything, they're some of them are Spurs fans, and they trust their kids to Tottenham Hotspur. It's their dream to see their kid not only play football, but to play for their boyhood club. And the way they just disrespect this, they bring the youth in, they don't get anywhere. You have people like Mundell, Mark Ande, who went the other year to Blackburn. It's just neglect, isn't it? It's just pure and simple neglect.
It's because there's no plan, Brian. There's no plan, right? If we had a plan in place, okay, let me break it down to you like this. The academy's job is to develop a player that can play in the first team and play under multiple managers under any system. So in order for it to develop that kind of player, you've got to develop the individual, not the team. So the academy focuses on developing the individual. They do a good job at it. Don't get me wrong. We don't always get the cream of the crop of players that come in because other clubs do have a bit more clout than us. And also other clubs don't play with a straight bat. Spurs, I'll give them credit. They play with a straight bat. They do it the right way by the rules. Other clubs don't. For example, I'm not going to buy you a house, but I'm going to buy your mum and dad a house. You've effectively bought the player a house. Okay.
Yeah.
So there are shenanigans that go on. Spurs do not entertain that. They will not set that precedent. And I actually condone that. It's good that we do that. So we don't necessarily get the best of the best coming in. Sometimes we do, but sometimes we don't for those reasons. And I would also say, could the quality of our coaching in the academy be better? Yes, it could. There are people in the academy that I don't think necessarily are the best at developing the players, if I'm going to be brutally honest. There's some good coaches in there, but could we do better? Yes, we can. So on that side, that's where the club lacks. But Ollie Skip is not a bad player. He's not a bad player. He's in the club at the wrong environment. How many managers has Skip had, Brian?
Well, let's have a look. He started coming through and was being mentioned around Poch and Jose time.
Jose.
So Poch was given him Poch, Jose, Nuno, Conte, Stellini, Mason.
Right. How can a young player have 6 managers in 2 or 3 years and we expect this young lad to develop and progress? It's in how many different instructions, how many different roles, how many different partnerships on the pitch, how many different starts, bench, start, subbed. Where's the consistency in this young player's progress? And this is why I say it goes back to the top. There's no plan in place, hence why managers come and go like there's, like it's just a conveyor belt. So if we had a plan, for example, so let me go back to what I was saying. So the academy, because it knows that's going to happen, right? The club have told the academy, this is what happens at Tottenham. So don't develop teams, develop an individual player that can play under any manager in any system. And to be fair to Skip, he's played under all those managers, maybe not Poch. He's played under all of them and he's played in all their systems and they still pick him, which says that the academy is doing its job.
Yep.
The academy is doing its job. What is being set out from above. But what fans want is, why can't we develop all these players that go straight into the first team and all play the same type of football, and then the manager we pick plays the same football? That is the philosophy of the academy and the first team. They want this. Basically, they want Ajax. That's going to take 10, 15 years to build.
Correct.
Spurs fans, reality check. That is a 15-year project. Any which way you look at it. Right. Every manager that comes to Spurs plays a different way, different system, different style. Every manager that comes to Spurs is gone in 18 to 24 months. They're gone, other than Poch and Redknapp. Everyone else hasn't lasted longer than that. So how can this academy system work, even if we did the Ajax model, because we keep chopping and changing the manager too often? So the reality is, for our academy to work, in my view, the club needs to say, this is what we want. All right, I'm just going to create a scenario. We want to win the Premier League. Okay, that's the end goal. Let's look at teams that have won the Premier League. Let's analyze what they've done and how they've done it and say, right, what is the best pathway that we can replicate with our spin on it? You say, okay, this is the pathway we're going to go down. How long do we need? Let's say 4 years. How much roughly do we anticipate is going to be needed for wages and player acquisition? So now you've got the end goal, the time frame, the plan of how to execute the time frame, how much money we need, and then which manager can do this. And you begin to put your plan together. Now, if part of the plan is to bring through youngsters, part of that process, fine. But then you've got to stick to this plan. Otherwise, the academy won't fulfill the objective, because where the objective now is develop a player that can play in any system under any manager, because that's how the club runs. You're now going to say, right, we're going to develop a philosophy, a way, not of playing, but a philosophy of what the player has to be able to do to fit into this way of playing.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the academy is doing the best it can given the way the club is structured at the moment. There is no plan. That's why That's why this stadium isn't. This is why this stadium is not a game changer so far.
Yep.
And that's why the academy and the £40 million spent on developing this amazing site, first team training facility, academy building. That's why you're not seeing these players come through. It's why a lot of fans are getting frustrated, and they're just saying, right, the academy's failing. We need a manager that brings through young players. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. And can I also say to a lot of people,
God, sir,
our academy isn't just to develop players for the first team. It's to develop players that we can sell. And if you look at the amount of the monetary value of players that our academy has developed and sold or put out on loan, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but whatever money Tottenham put towards building the stadium, I think 25% of that came from academy players being developed and sold. So the academy has funded 25% of the amount of money the club has put down. I'm not talking about what we borrowed. If we borrowed 800 million, I think Tottenham put down 200 million. If we put down 200 million, if that's the amount, 25% of that, the academy funded. So we've got to look at that side of things as well. The academy isn't just to develop players, it's to generate income for the club.
There you go. There you go. And then God knows how much quality we've let go through because we've put them on free transfers. But moving on from that, something people are going to know about before we go protest, how we always end it. We're going to speak a little bit about mine and Stell's Levy our journey, because people will know who watch us on YouTube.
Journey, it's been a nightmare.
Seen us everywhere. Will know that we are two very, very extreme people when it comes to this. And the reason we are,
pretty much,
is we've been like this for 15 goddamn years. For me, I think, Stell, you're around the same sort of time, aren't you? I'm 15 years. Well, what's your joke?
I was getting itchy feet under Redknapp, but when we sacked Poch, that's when I snapped. When we sacked, that was my breaking point. But I was building up to it. There
we go. So people will know that we are two of the probably most predominant people on YouTube for doing this. And we both come in for a lot of stick. We both get a lot of praise. But you've got to remember what we've had to endure, what we've witnessed. Like I said, for me, for 15 years. So it's great to see this is turning, but people have, still, you and me reconnected after God knows what, 10 years, because we kept going on the same Facebook groups and just slamming. That's how we reconnected. We went to school together. You're at my bar mitzvah, but the way we reconnected is we kept commenting. I was like, "Is that the same Stelly?" I was like, "Is that him?" But yeah, our Levy out journey. We've climbed to the summit, haven't we? And right now, we're getting close to the top of the mountain, aren't we?
Look, I've never known the whole fan base be disgruntled towards this ownership ever. I think when they first bought the club, I remember there were fans with placards and protests saying "Levy out" when they first bought it.
Yep.
I don't know what the reason behind that was. I know there was some kind of concern about them, but you know what? They were right. Those initial protesters, when they first took over, 22 years later, they were right. They were worried about why they were buying the club and what their intentions were. And you know what? No one talks about them because they came and went. But look, Brian, the protests aren't big, if we're going to be honest, but you've got groups like Change for Tottenham. I mean, we can talk about them if you want. It's here or there for me at the moment.
Yep.
You've got thousands of fans on a match day who do sing "Levy out." We want our Tottenham back. They sing it. It's loud on a match day. They're not 100, 200. These are thousands of fans.
Yep.
There's been times when you feel like it's the whole South stand and then it's spreading around the East and the West as well. Yep. So that's rampant. Social media, ENIC out, hashtag Levy out. It trends often. The media coverage, the media coverage, the past couple of weeks, all the big journalists, Sky Sports covering it, newspaper, tabloids, radio. You got pundits like Jamie O'Hara just slamming them every kind of opportunity he gets when the subject comes up. Redknapp has spoken about it. It is a constant conversation where a lot of fans are now saying, "Do you know what? It is them. It is them." Yep. The difficulty we've got is those that are now saying, "Right, we're not happy with these owners. We are getting to that point of enough is enough." What are they going to do about it? Because simply moaning about it and tweeting, and I know this upsets a lot of people, and I get why people want to come for me when I say it, but I'm going to say it. If you're ENIC out, Levy out. If you're Levy change, ENIC change. If you are fed up and you do nothing about it, you are part of the problem. You are facilitating the problem. You're not the reason this problem exists. And it's not your fault that this has happened. You didn't create this. But if you allow it to continue, you are part of the problem. If you're okay with this, if you think there's a bigger picture, if you think we need to be more patient and that we're out of order, then fair enough. You are not to blame because you've got the club you want. Enjoy the end of season parade that we're not having again. And don't moan or complain about anything because everything's great, right? But if you really are at that point where you've just enough is enough, this is beyond the joke, and you do nothing about that. And by the way, people that say, "Oh, but I live here and there, I can't do anything about it," you can retweet the protests. You can share any articles that journalists write saying it's Levy, it's ENIC. You can do a little bit. If you do nothing, I'm sorry, but you are facilitating the problem any which way you look at it. And I know why people get upset with it because people don't want to hear that. But for me, it's the truth. It really is the truth.
Yeah, I mean, still, the way I'm looking at it as well, and I've been saying it all week, the international fan base, and you've been in Canada and seen me, and you've been to America and see the fan base. I know for a fact, if the international fan base was here, we'd have thousands opposite that club shop.
Without a question of a doubt.
No matter where, if it was Israel, Cyprus, Australia, Korea, Turkey, or any Brazil, Argentina, anywhere, they'd all be out there. Then I look at it like,
it's weird. It's strange. I don't understand.
The thing I don't get it. Still, do you remember as well when we this is where I'm targeting it this kind of week, when we were at the training ground this January, when there was a big turnout for 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning in the middle of January, not the biggest as in hundreds, but for what we did.
Big for us. Big for us. Yeah.
And it was like, that was at 10 o'clock. It's like these people gave up their Saturdays and came here. So the people I know, and we're going to get onto when we talk protest. I'm going to talk about three things. But they're doing their bit. But what the bit I don't get, you mentioned it at the beginning still, it's the 62,500 fans that are there. It's the thousands that are singing Levy out inside.
Yeah, I know.
That stadium. That's the bit that's where I'm really focusing it right now. It's like, I know what the international fan base does with retweets and sharing and doing blah, blah, blah. I know what the people that can't get there in Scotland, Manchester, wherever, or family commitments, I know what they're doing. But there's 62,500 people that said to us, even at the training ground, why don't you do it at a home game so we can all be there?
Do you know what, Brian? I think part of it is as well, and I don't know how this has happened, but when I listen to other channels and podcasts and I just read conversations online, our fan base, it loves politics. It loves
It does.
politics. We've got to win over the moderates. And why must we win them over? This isn't a campaign. Either you're happy with the situation or you're not, or you're unsure. It's not about changing people's views and opinions. This isn't question time. This isn't a debate show. This isn't, let's have a really good discussion and make ourselves feel good. And what a lot of channels do is now they say it's therapy time. I'm not here for therapy. I want this to go away. I want this to stop. So we're a very political fan base. And what part of these political games is trying to get one up on the other side. And we've been slammed with, they say Levy's a cancer. They say Daniel Levy died. They say that's so far from the truth.
Yep.
We've had a minority of idiots that have either hijacked or have tried to come along for a jolly rather than actually being there for a good reason. We've had a minority group that have done that in the past. Agreed. But by the same token, people that slam the whole group of protesters for those idiots, I could easily say, well, if that's your reason for not wanting to protest or boycott or bring about real change, if that's your reason, then stop going to the stadium because you sit in the same stand where thousands of fans sing when Sol Campbell dies. So either we're going to cherry pick who it's okay to talk about dying, or we're going to actually put a bit of common sense into this and say, hold on a minute, there's a couple of idiots that sing that, just like we get a couple of idiots on match day that sing stupid shit as well.
Yep.
So, but you don't hear that because it's politicized. It's just,
you're right.
What can we say? One little thing they've done and weaponize it. And this is where I just don't understand our fan base, why we're like this. It's even, you see it with the Spurs Supporters Trust, Brian, when they write a letter to the board and then another group writes a letter to the board, change for Tottenham. They start attacking each other. It's like, why are you not playing politics?
Correct.
This is insane. Like, you're all playing politics. What? How? Brian, you look at Man United. Glazers out. That's it. They've had enough. And they're winning trophies. You look at Arsenal. Thousands descended on the Emirates twice.
Yep.
During the ESL.
Yep.
But, sorry, 1 second.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, so I was just grabbing my attention. and you see them all. They don't have this political debate and this big hoo-ha of that's the way to do it. No, this way. No, let's do this. No, let's do that. They're just like, do you know what? We as a fan base aren't happy with what we're being served up. We're not happy with what we're being told because the opposite happens. And we're paying way too much money to fund this. And the only benefiter, the only one that comes out on top from all of this are you guys, because you're making millions either by increasing the value of the club that you own or by giving yourself a bonus of £500,000 at the end of the year. Yeah, I'm just... But they just get on with it. Look at Everton. They're not having it. They're not having it. Fair enough, their situation's worse. But I look at us and I think we all want things to... A lot of us want this to change. A lot of us have had enough, Brian. We've had enough. So many have had enough. You see it.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
We're so wrapped up in politics. The politics of this... Politics and religion should never, ever be involved in football. Never.
You're bang on. And do you know what? We're going to end the show with the one I'm ending with protest. And it's good that you mentioned as well about the chat. Listen, there have been a select group, but we've come out. People that have organised these have said that we do not condone these songs. We have not condoned this, and it's getting to the point now where we've got someone called Brian Maguire who's coming down from Glasgow to get to this protest. Who I speak to regularly.
Big up. Yeah.
We have a guy where I showed you the message though. The report commented he's coming from Finland. He got his flights today. He's flying from Finland. Brilliant. To protest. And thankfully, people are in these positions to do so. And obviously, there was a big announcement yesterday that Crackers is going to come and stand with us, and it's because, do you know what? Crackers has not come out and been so forthright to say, "Yep, this is the time." But it's big. The more people are starting to not realize and wake up, I want to say more people are joining this. More people are doing this, and the thing is, they'll see that when we protest, we do it peacefully. Yeah, we're singing Levy out. Yeah, we're singing ENIC out and get out of our club. But we don't do anything silly. We welcome anyone and everyone. And these protests are growing and growing and growing because more people are realizing what we've been thinking about or saying some of us for many, many years now. I mean, Stel, I'm going to leave this to you. I mean, how important is Saturday and what can Saturday represent?
Massive.
The last home game of the
Massive.
season. Fire away, Stel.
Every protest is massive because people say, oh, protests don't work. And my response is, you haven't tried. How do you know? Yep. Oh, but it won't work. But you haven't tried. You know, the same way you say Conte can't change his system, he's stubborn. Well, how do you know? How do we know unless you try something different? The same applies to the protest. If you don't protest in mass numbers, you don't know what impact it will have. And protesting doesn't necessarily force change. What it does is it grabs negative attention towards the owners.
Yep.
It's about making the brand of Levy and ENIC not so popular. So when sponsors want to sponsor the club, when Nike want to renew the contract with us, when corporate box holders want to pay hundreds of thousands of pounds for a corporate box to entertain, wine, dine their clients, is this the environment you want to do it in? Exactly. Is this the place you want to come and do it? The NFL pride themselves on brand. Well, if the brand here begins to become tarnished, suddenly they're not going to want to be in partnership with us. The reason these partnerships and all this wealth creation happens is because brand Levy and brand Tottenham is still in a good place. It's about destabilizing that in a legal way, not flipping cars on the high street and petrol bombing the West Stand. Okay, we're there with banners chanting, "We want Levy out, ENIC out." The bigger it gets, the fact these chants happening in the stadium has now grabbed the media attention.
Correct.
If we escalate this by more numbers being involved, big protests, big rallies, boycott games, stop buying merchandise from the shop. If we can get to that stage, the position becomes intolerable because box holders, Nike, sponsors AIA, the Premier League, who need this global brand to look good, the NFL, they're all going to be on the phone to Levy. If one person complains, he'll deal with it. If the phone doesn't stop ringing and it's coming from every angle, you can't work like that. And it will affect it. Eventually, the board will have to say, Daniel, you can't do this anymore, man. Like, look at you. This is not good for anyone. And it's trying to get it to that place where they're forced to either change or sell up. And that's why the protests are so important. You know, Brian's been standing out in the freezing cold in the rain at times at the training ground. For what? To be laughed at, to have memes made about him. You know, I stood in the protest a couple of weeks ago getting soaked. Got people videoing me. Yeah, we got him. Put it on Twitter. Look at this idiot. But we still turn up. Do you know why? Because we are people of our convictions. Right? We don't do a poll on Twitter. Only 10% of our Twitter followers said that they're going to turn up, so we're going to cancel. If one person's prepared to protest, we turn up.
Yep.
And big up to all the protesters who aren't Brian and I, who've been doing this before us.
Yep.
Whose names I won't mention. You can come to the protest and meet them and see why they do this. Because they turn up through thick and thin, home and away, every match day, Europe, and they protest, and they've kept the message alive. And that's why protesting is so important. Because if the protesters don't protest, this message is dead. The protesters have kept this going. And it's just, what is everyone's breaking point, Brian? What is everyone's breaking point?
That's the thing we've got to work out. And the other thing I'm going to say before I get you to big up your channel and thank you for coming on still is you say about the sponsors as well. What you got to remember at the moment as well is people, £4 million is the number, 5 million maybe. If these companies pull out and take their money with them and we're not in European football and we don't have people like Harry Kane that could be leaving or who knows if he signs a contract, that 4 million, that 5 million, that price starts going down. Then these owners are like, oh, wait a minute. Tottenham Hotspur ain't at 5 billion, it's at 3 billion. That means I'm saving 2 billion. That can go either 2 billion in our skyrocket, 2 billion to doing whatever the club needs. Like Stel said, this isn't just about getting him out right here, right now. It's just causing as much negativity and anger and bad press towards him as humanly possible. So remember, like Stel said, these protests are huge, and this is your last chance, people, this season at a home game. But Stel, brother, thank you very much. Give your channel, Tottenham Away, as people know, a channel very, very close to Tottenham on Tour. Give your channel a big up, brother.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, Tottenham Away, you can find us. We're actually live most days now, Monday, Friday, Wednesday.
Happy days.
We do. Was that Fonzie, wasn't it? Fonzie.
It was.
Oh man. Yeah. We're very ENIC out, Levy out on our channel, but we don't just talk about Levy out, ENIC out. We do talk about football, although people that don't want the ENIC out and Levy out message to grow, they'll just say you're an echo chamber. All you talk about is Levy. It's a nonsense. Come and watch. We talk a lot about football. We do watch alongs as well, and we even have a couple of late night shows, which is just a bit of fun. So, yeah, if you like Tottenham on Tour, then come and watch Tottenham Away. And if you like Tottenham Away, make sure you watch Tottenham on Tour.
There we go. So listen, guys, that's day 3 done. I only put 2 fingers up there. That's my Levy putting a £2 million bid for a £3 million player. Day 3. Day fucking 3 done. So, guys, put your comments in. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, Levy out.